Audi TT Mk1, a beginner's guide to replacing the rear shock absorbers.
Hi all, Andy here and welcome back to the channel, where tonight I'm not carrying the Olympic torch, but instead I am replacing my rear shock absorbers with these Monroe G1236 models.
I would recommend watching the whole video, particularly if you are a beginner, as there is lots of info I have included that I was not aware of before I started, and these sections may help you. However, here are the timestamps of the sections if you would rather fast forward to the actual work.
I understand these are as close as possible to the OEM for the 3.2 V6, but they also fit the 225. As you know from my other videos, this is aimed at the complete novice or beginner. I've never undertaken this before, so I'm going to learn as I go along. Reason I'm undertaking this? Well, if you've watched my wheel restoration videos, and I will leave a link to that above, when I removed the old rear wheels, you may have noticed that the rear shocks were completely shot. All of the casing, this part of the casing, seemed to be rusted away, and there was little bits of rusty tail hanging off the bottom. Shock absorber wise, the car feels like it is absorbing shock, although the car does lean slightly to one side from what I've observed. Now that could be a broken spring, so when we do this job we'll take a look at the springs and see if that needs doing also. A list of tools, well there will not be too many, but I will leave a link to all the tools you need just here.
In hindsight, I would rate this job 3 out of 5 for difficulty, as will be explained. I settled on the Monroe G1236 shocks to replace the Monroe MN2s that were on the car as factory. The Audi part number for the original shocks on the 3.2 V6 are 8N0512-011BD. Trying to find the replacement shocks was actually quite tough. I had conflicting responses from sellers saying it would and would not fit my car. After investigating further, this all boils down to your car and if you have the Magna-Ride suspension option fitted to the car. If in doubt, check with the main Audi dealer to see if your vehicle registration has that fitted. There are some parts you're going to need for this job also, and that's a pair of these, or a set of these. The shock absorber would fit on the car that way, this being at the top, this being at the bottom, but there's a bolt that goes through the top, secures the top, and a bigger bolt that goes through the bottom. However, these bolts are single use, so you will need 2 of these bolts, and these are the part number N104-28102, and this secures the top of the strut. You'll also need 2 of these, a much larger bolt, and this is an N907-81301. Don't forget to order those when you order your shocks, because you can't reuse the original bolts as they are stretch bolts and single use only. Let's get started on the rear shock removal. First, you need to loosen your alloy wheel nuts with the car under its own weight and then start jacking the car up. I opted to jack the rear of the car up using the subframe just behind the Haldex as my lift point that I cover in my jacking video on the channel. And I positioned an axle stand under one of the hydraulic lift points just in front of the rear wheel. With the car resting on the axle stand, I lower the jack as we will need to reuse that again in a bit.
The reason I've removed the jack is I actually need the jack as part of this job, so I'm going to support the underneath of the wheel hub when I remove the shock absorber, so that can compress it slightly and I can unbolt it easier. Next job is to get this wheel off. As you've probably seen if you've been watching my other videos, I've recently had the wheels refurbished. So I'm hoping the wheel's not going to be welded to the hub and it should just come off nice and easy. Moment of truth. Oh yeah, easy. Okay, so as I mentioned from my previous video, it's a bit gunky in there. The part we're looking to replace is this part here. Now you can see, look, that's just flaking off. That's not good. And while it's only the case, my suspicion is that the shock absorber is not worth it. Wow, that's just like crumbling in my hands. So as I mentioned, we're going to look at the spring while we're here. Yeah, I mean there's some paint peeled off, or the coating is peeled off, but the spring itself doesn't look broken as such. So I think the spring's okay. The first thing we need to do to access this strut, to get to this one at the top, we're going to need to remove this wheel arch liner. As you can see, it's held in place as it is on the 225 also, with these star screws the whole way round. So let's see if we can get that off next.
Next, take your T25 Torx bit screwdriver and get to work on the screws holding the inner wheel liner in place.
I'm lucky enough that I actually have a decent screwdriver. It's a snap-on screwdriver and it's probably about 30 years old. There's a story behind this screwdriver which I will share at some point on the channel, which is, okay, for me, a very fortunate story, but for someone else it was a rather unfortunate story. But anyway, I'm going to get these screws out. I'm going to store each one in a piece of cardboard, and the reason I do that, storing these bolts in a piece of cardboard, is I know exactly which position each bolt went back into. They are all the same, but as with anything, it's best to put the same bolt back in the same hole. So let's get that off now.
There are a total of 12 T25 Torx screws holding each wheel arch liner in place.
When you're taking the arch out, it's important to remember you shouldn't force it. So if it doesn't want to come away, don't make it. There's probably a reason why it won't come away, but this has now come away nice and easy. Just like that. So I'm going to store that behind the wheel. We will give the arch a clean, but more importantly, we'll also give under here a good clean as well. As you can see, it is pretty clean. It's looking a little bit rusty around the end of the sill here. So I'm going to give that a good clean and see if we can put some rust protector on it just to keep the rust at bay. A bit of rust there as well. But the important bit, it's all important really, isn't it? But the important bit is what we're looking at is the shock. So as you can see, there's a bolt holding this on here. I'm presuming it screws straight through the other side and into a piece of the chassis, because I can't feel a nut on the other side. I can't feel anything on the other side of it.
The lower end of the shock is bolted through from the anti-roll bar drop link side into the hub carrier.
Again, that's threaded, so we need to be careful. There's no bolt there, that we mustn't cross thread that.
I am unbolting the top of the shock first, and I'm not sure if there is a right or a wrong end to start on. The top is a 16mm bolt and it is fairly easy to remove. With the bolt completely undone, you can now extract it and you can test the shock. Compress it down and see if it springs back up.
Can I compress that shock? Yes, I can. So the moment of truth is, does that go back up? Well, that answers that. That shock is completely knackered. Essentially, that shock should be creeping back up like this. Back up to, well, obviously it would be in its mount, but it would be rebounding back to where it needs to be. Let's get that bottom bolt out of that shock. Get it off the car. Get the new one on.
With your jack under the trailing arm and not under the end of the shock like I tried, compress the arm to a rough ride height of the wheel. This will keep your drop link and anti-roll bar from putting that lower bolt under any tension as it is undone. That should lower your risk of damaging the thread of the hub carrier bracket. You should put the jack here and raise the car until the middle of the hub is around 35cm below the wheel arch as a rough guide. Using the 21mm socket, loosen the lower bolt and if needed, wriggle the bolt free of the shock and the drop link. With the bolt out, the shock should be totally free of the car.
So that is the shock absorber removed from the car.
So I've got the shock absorber off the car and here it is. And as you can see, it's in a really poor state. Now the interesting thing about shock absorber is when you compress it like so, and it does seem to compress, when you let go it should rebound back and open back up. This is not moving, or a very slight bit of movement, but not what we'd expect from the shock absorber. Here's a brand new Monroe G1236, and as you can see, it has this securing bar to prevent the shock absorber opening up too much in transit.
So if we just close that together slightly, and I'll remove that from the bottom, and if I let go of that, you'll see that starts springing out straight away. So if we compare that to this one, which hasn't moved, you can see that the original shock absorbers, not only are they badly tarnished and essentially rotten, they also don't work. Replacing these bolts is pretty important, so that is something I highly recommend you do. It is suggested in the Haynes manual, and I also believe it's mentioned in the Bentley manual. The original shocks that came off the car, they are an original Audi part. I'm going to hold it up to the camera to see if you can see that and the information around it. It carries the Audi stamp. It says these were built in Belgium, and the part number is 8NO512011. It's made by Monroe, which makes me think this is as close as I'm going to get to the OEM part. But the original shock absorber is a Monroe MN2.
For refitting, I first secured the top of the shock in position using one of the new stretch bolts, even though I undid the top bolt first in the removal process. This was just to keep the shock from moving around when trying to line the bottom bolt up. The new shock wants to open up, which made lining up the bottom bolt more difficult without the top one bolted in.
So for tightening and torquing down this top bolt, I know I need to apply 22 Newton meters or 30 pounds, foot-pounds of torque. So I've got my torque wrench, my 16mm bit set up.
When it clicks, it needs a further tighten by 90 degrees with a normal wrench. With the trailing arm supported by the jack and maintaining a rough ride height, the lower bolt should be passed through the drop link eye and the shock absorber, and then into the threaded hole on the wheel hub bracket. It is very easy to misalign this bolt and the hole and mess up the threads, so don't force it. If it does not seem to tighten and spin, shine a light into the bolt hole on the outside of the car and see if you can see the end of the bolt. You could apply some white paint to the very end of the bolt to make observing easier. If it's not dead in the centre, apply a little upwards or downwards force to the anti-roll bar with your hand to see if you can get it aligned. It might need the jack slightly raising or lowering by one pump of the handle to get perfect alignment. I forgot to show the comparison before I reattached the wheel arch liner with the new shock in place, but this is it before, full of cobwebs and dirt and rust, and this is it afterwards with the suspension components all cleaned. They're also free of rust and have been treated, and all the cobwebs are gone. Using the T25 bolt stored in your cardboard guide, reattach the wheel arch liner, ensuring it clicks into the guides and the sill and lines up around the edge of the rear bumper. Looking around the arch now it's clean and the shock is in place and the treated parts are all dry, remove the jack from the trailing arm and reattach your road wheel. Jack the car up again from the rear subframe to remove the axle stand. Gently lower the car into position and you should be done. Another thing to point out is the height of the car immediately after this job. The car had not settled straight back down and was sitting very high, to the point I thought I had done something wrong, as I could get my fist between the tyre and the arch. After the car had been moved, this did revert back to normal height, so do not panic. Okay, moment of truth for the shocks. See how it feels. Bizarrely, it definitely feels higher at the back. I don't know if that's my seating position, but if I put it in sport mode and I accelerate hard, yeah, road holding is much better. Doesn't have that wallowing at the back that it once had. But even though the ride has been firmed up, it's more comfortable. Even the car, the bumps and the rattles that you normally hear, that's gone away. So before, any little dip in the road, it was like doink, doink, doink. You'd actually feel it. Now, sail straight over the top. Around these gentle bends on my country road, there's literally no pitch from the back of the car. So I put my foot down. There's no lean whatsoever. Road handling is amazing. And I think that's because the old shocks just had nothing left in them at all. What we do know is that these G1236 Monroe shocks definitely fit this car. Some resellers that I asked said they don't. And I think that's because they don't know the product intimately enough. I agree it will not fit all 3.2 V6s, but that's because they've got the variable magnetic suspension. But for my car, job done.
If you like what you've seen today, then please do give this video a thumbs up, and also think about subscribing to my channel where I cover a whole host of videos on the Audi TT Mk1 maintenance. As always, thanks for watching, see you soon, take care.